So I'm going to walk through setting this application up really quickly. Before installing the application or loading the application into the Kubernetes cluster, a couple things need to be put in place. The first of those is the Kubernetes cluster itself. In the examples in these videos, I'm using Kubernetes 1.7 on the Azure Container Service. Secondly, you're going to need a Twitter application. So if you visit this site, you can register an application which basically returns back a couple pieces of data: the Twitter consumer key, the consumer secret, access token, and access token secret. And then finally, you're going to need an Azure subscription and the Azure CLI installed on your development machine. So with those in place, there's several Azure dependencies or services that are used with this application. As well to load it up into Kubernetes. There's a pretty involved Kubernetes manifest file that starts the deployments and sets all the environment variables. So each one of these Azure services are going to have connection strings and secrets that need to be set as environment variables inside of the container. So what I've done is I've created a script that not only um, creates the Azure services, but also auto-generates a Kubernetes manifest file that can be used to start the application in the Kubernetes cluster. So with the script, there's just a couple things that need to be updated. The first is here on line 2 through 5 is the Twitter consumer key and access tokens that are returned when you create or register the Twitter application. And then finally, this on line 8, we've got Twitter text. Here you can see I've got Seattle. And what this is the filter term that will be used to filter tweets from the Twitter streaming API. So in this instance, I would return every tweet containing the word Seattle and then perform the sentiment analysis on those tweets. So you can just grab a copy of this script. And then as discussed, these pieces need to be updated at the top. And once that's been done, just save the file, and then we can run it. So I kind of mentioned it before, but what's going on here is that all of the Azure services that are needed for the Twitter sentiment application are being created. I'm then pulling back all the keys and whatnot from those services and auto-generating a Kubernetes manifest file. So we can actually see that happening here. So we can see a resource group was created named My Twitter Sentiment. And then inside of this resource group, we can see that these services are starting to populate. So we've got the Azure Cosmos database account and the Azure Queue or the storage account. And in just a moment, we'll see the Azure Cognitive Services Twitter Sentiment API. All right, and there's the Cognitive Services API. Let's go look at the progress of the script. So it's still running, and at this point, it's pulling back some of those connection strings and creating the Kubernetes manifest file. So if we return the contents of the directory, we can see there's actually a couple files in here that were created, but the one that I'm most concerned about for right now is this twitter-sentiment.yaml file. So let's go ahead and take a look at this YAML file now. So basically there's 4 objects being created with this Kubernetes manifest. The first is a deployment for the process tweet application. And you can see here we've got a bunch of the Azure stuff specified. Now to note, I'm not using Kubernetes secrets here, so I've got a bunch of stuff exposed. I'll delete this resource group shortly after this video, so there's no harm here, but if doing something similar, you may want to consider securing your secrets in a Kubernetes a Kubernetes secret, that is. So first deployment, process tweet. We've got a second deployment, which is the get tweet application. The third deployment is the chart tweet application. And then since that chart tweet piece will be exposed to the internet, we've got a service with the type of load balancer. So let's go ahead and run this and see it kick off. And yep, so we can see that the 3 deployments and the 1 service were created. So again, just to summarize, I've built just a little quick start script, update the Twitter keys and the text for which you want to search the Twitter streaming API, run the script, it will create the Azure resources, and then spit out a Kubernetes manifest file that can be used to create the application in a Kubernetes cluster. Thanks for watching.